So I got to thinking and I was like, is that really a fair label to call me a recovering alcoholic or make a comment like that I'm a recovering alcoholic sitting at a bar? And what I learned from unpacking that, I'm about to share with you. And I'm very confident that had I learned this earlier, or somebody told me this earlier, or had I understood this earlier, I would have probably stopped drinking a lot sooner than I stopped drinking. A couple of months ago, my family and I went to a restaurant just to celebrate a birthday. And it was one of those restaurants it's a popular restaurant. They stay pretty busy and they did not accept reservations. We had a pretty big group of people going. So my girlfriend and I get there early, to get our name on the list. And it was a pretty good group, so it was going to take them something like 45 minutes plus to get a table ready. No big deal. We expected it. There was some extra room at the bar though. So we decided while we're waiting, well, we'll go belly up to the bar. I ordered a water. My girlfriend ordered probably a beer. There were a couple of people already there that were with our party that had gotten there before us. They were already bellied up to the bar having a cocktail, doing their thing. I personally don't drink alcohol anymore. So again, I just ordered a water. So fast forward a few minutes and somebody else shows up to the party and I offer them my bar stool because at that time I'm sitting there just drinking a water. There's no sense in me being there. And it was a female friend of my girlfriend's, so I'm doing the right thing and just offer her my seat at the bar. And my girlfriend made a comment that sort of stopped me in my tracks. Really got me to thinking. And the comment that she made was something to the effect of, and she was referring to me obviously, something about, yeah, nothing like a recovering alcoholic sitting at a bar. And the reason that stopped me in my tracks is because I got to thinking about it. And this is a situation we've been in dozens of times. I stopped drinking something like 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. But it's something that's happened so many times that and every time it's been the same. I never even thought to order a drink. Never was tempted to order a drink. It just never was an option. So I got to thinking and I was like, is that really a fair label to call me a recovering alcoholic or make a comment like that I'm a recovering alcoholic sitting at a bar? And what I learned from unpacking that, I'm about to share with you. And I'm very confident that had I learned this earlier, or somebody told me this earlier, or had I understood this earlier, I would have probably stopped drinking a lot sooner than I stopped drinking. So what I took away from that, I'll start by telling you that when I did drink, I drank very, very heavily for nearly 15 years. And when I say heavily, I drank a handle of hard liquor probably every 2 to 3 days. And in that 15 years, there were very few days that I did not drink. And thinking back on it, like, even if I was on an antibiotic, you're not supposed to drink on an antibiotic, never even checked up, kept drinking through all of that. The only days that I ever stopped drinking, and I'm talking about whether I was sick, well, didn't make a difference. I drank regardless. But the only days that I didn't drink were days that I couldn't, and the only reason I couldn't those days is because in 2017, I spent nearly that entire year hiking the Appalachian Trail. I spent like 8.5 months hiking the Appalachian Trail and going from town to town. If you know anything about doing long distance hiking like that, you obviously can't be packing that much. I guess you could if you really wanted or needed to, but I didn't. Anyways, I would always pack alcohol out for the first night. Sometimes I would stretch it, I would literally have vodka or tequila or something in a smart water bottle, but I would pack it out so I'd have it for a night or two. And then there would maybe be another night or two that I would not have any alcohol with me, so I wouldn't drink those nights, and I felt better better those days than I ever did when I was drinking. You would have thought it would have got my attention, but it didn't. I would get into a town to resupply, kind of get a shower, do all that, and first thing that I would do is go find a place to drink, and I would drink. So that's the only time, literally, in 15 years that I went a day or a day or two without drinking. So I had zero discipline when it came to drinking, and that's just important for you to know that that's how much I was drinking. So I am going to preface all of this with the fact that I am not a doctor, and I do know that stopping drinking alcohol is something that can literally kill you. It's something that you don't take lightly. A lot of people need to be medically supervised as they quit. Everybody's different. When I quit, it happened to be but it was under a medical situation, not because I was trying to quit drinking alcohol, but because my appendix ruptured, and that's happened to be what started me being sober. And that's a whole different conversation. I will make a video on that in the future just to give you a better idea of all that, because there's a lot of good information, good takeaways, information that can help a lot of people out there just in that story alone. But what I took away from being labeled as a recovering alcoholic, I feel like, is the most important thing that I could share with you. And it's the one thing that I'm very confident would have made me quit drinking far earlier had I known before I did. And I should have known before too that it's as simple as it is. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's very simple. So I will rewind a little bit. I've got an addictive personality. Before I ever really, and I guess there was some crossover, but before I ever started really drinking regularly, I smoked cigarettes. And by the time I was done smoking cigarettes, I was smoking something like 2 packs a day. And I mean, I was getting nicotine any way I can. This is back when Camel made these little pouches you could put in your mouth. I don't know if they make them anymore. This is way before Zins, but it was something very similar. A little pouch. They had to keep them in refrigerators. Some of you may remember that. But I was doing those. I was smoking a couple packs a day, and I made a decision that I didn't want to smoke cigarettes anymore. I made that decision because I knew that it was very detrimental to my health. I had gotten into mountain biking, and I knew that my lung capacity was suffering greatly because of smoking cigarettes, and I hated the smell, and there was just a lot of things. And I made a decision to stop smoking cigarettes, and I bought my last pack of cigarettes knowing it was going to be my last pack of cigarettes, and that was the last cigarettes I ever smoked. Now, I did use vape as a cessation aid as they were designed. And this is back when vapes first came out, before those gas station vapes. This is back when you had to get like a battery and the whole glass thing, and the battery may or may not explode. But anyways, you could kind of work your way down in nicotine levels until you got to zero, and that's exactly what I did. I didn't vape to get my nicotine. I did it to sort of just, use it as a cessation aid, which it was effective. And once I stopped smoking cigarettes, I completely quit that, and then went to the vape and rapidly decreased my nicotine levels until I got down to zero. And then I decided no more of that. And never once since then have I thought about smoking a cigarette. I mean, I made that decision. So that's my whole point. It's literally just a decision. It's been so overcomplicated. Everything that I knew about getting sober, leading up to getting sober, was overcomplicated. I remember watching that show, Intervention. I loved that show. I would sit around getting drunk, rooting for somebody to get sober. It's like eating ice cream while you're watching The Biggest Loser. It was a totally counterintuitive, but I would do stuff like that. I loved that show, but that show sort of made me think, as well as pretty much all the other information that I had absorbed up to that point, made me think that if I was going to stop drinking, because I had a real problem drinking, that I had to go to AA meetings, or I had to totally change my environment, or I needed to go to some sort of treatment facility, or I needed all new friends. And what I can tell you in my experience is none of that was true. Literally, when I decided to stop drinking alcohol, that's the only thing in my life that I changed. I did not change any of my friends. I did not change any of my habits, anything that I did. Literally, the liquid in my cup was the only thing that I changed. Now, it was an everyday habit for me because of my job. Where I work is right next to a bar. I'd finish up with work. All of my buddies would be at that bar. We would do it every afternoon. Very great place, a lot of good friends. We knew everybody. Just a very good environment. But we would all drink, got cheap drinks in there. You know, we were treated like employees. They still are. But even when I quit drinking, I did not stop going to do that in the afternoons. I would go in, I just wouldn't consume alcohol. And they understood. I had just gotten out of the hospital with appendicitis and all of that. So they sort of thought, I don't even know what they thought, but I just told them, you know, I mean, I did have a period of time that I wasn't supposed to drink because of medications I was on, though that never even helped me to check up in the past. But they just assumed, oh, he just got out of the hospital, you know, he's on medications. And then they got to thinking, for some reason, because I was choosing not to drink, I guess in their head they thought that I couldn't drink, and I just didn't even bother to correct them. They just, when they were pouring shots and offering shots up, they knew that I was not going to be involved in that. But all that to say, I didn't change anything. I continued to go to that bar, and I had already made the decision, just simply made the decision that I didn't want to drink anymore. So I didn't need to change anything about my lifestyle. I didn't change those friends. They all still drink very heavily. I still consider them all friends, but naturally I have grown past. I don't want to sound like arrogant or anything, because it's like it's not like a mark of nobility. I don't think, you know, but anyways, I didn't need to make the decision that I need new friends. Just life organically had me grow past those friendships. I hope that makes sense without sounding arrogant or like I'm holier than thou or anything, because I'm absolutely not. They're all great people. They're very, very functional, good friends. But yeah, I've literally grown past those friendships, and it's been a very, very good thing. Nothing but positive things have come from making the decision to not drink. So if you haven't gotten the point yet, don't overcomplicate it. Stopping drinking is literally a decision. You're not necessarily a recovering alcoholic forever. Once you make the decision to stop drinking, you are no longer an alcoholic. You are a former alcoholic if you were an alcoholic prior. But if I'm going to consider anybody a recovering alcoholic, that would be somebody who, and I was there for many of the years that I was drinking, and you're probably there now. If you clicked on this video, you probably know that you have a problem with drinking, that it's something that is not healthy, that you want to change, you want to make a change. Understanding that is for sure the first step, understanding you have a problem. And I knew that for many years. I tried many, many times to stop drinking, but I overcomplicated it. I would try to replace the addiction, whether it was I would start lifting weights or working out or something. And ultimately, every single time, my addiction to alcohol and whatever I tried to replace that addiction with, they would just sort of coexist for a period of time. And then the addiction that was not alcohol would eventually go away, because who's got time for that? I want to drink. And physically, you know, as you get older too, I mean, it's harder to do other things. You're more tired, and I'm not even going to get into that right now, but there are a lot of benefits to not drinking, especially as you get older when it comes to productivity and doing all those kind of things. But anyways, those things just started to coexist with drinking, and I never stopped drinking. Drinking was the thing that I never gave up. But it's because I was trying to add something. That's something that required action. Quitting drinking is literally refraining from doing something. I'm not having to do anything extra. I'm not having, by not changing anything about my life and not, going to the bar in the afternoon and just drinking water. So I'm not having to find a way to fill that time. I'm still doing the same thing. So it's less to think about. It's literally just subtracting one thing, and that's what's in that cup. The contents of that liquid in that cup, from alcohol to water. So it's been an absolutely awesome ride. I will talk a lot more about this in the future, but the most important thing to remember is don't overcomplicate it. You don't have to change everything in your life. I know everybody's different, and there are a lot of people out there that can benefit from things like AA, from treatment facilities, from totally changing their friends. I know that everybody's different, and everybody, that some people, they need that, but not everybody, myself included. And had I had that information a long time ago, I'm pretty confident I would have stopped drinking a long time before I did. So I encourage you to make the decision. It's that simple. Just make that one decision to refrain from drinking. You don't have to change anything else about your life. Just exercise some discipline to not drink. Subtract that one thing from your life, and I promise you, everything is so much better. And you know good and well that you were meant for so much more than what's in that cup and what's got a hold on you in the same way I did. And I finally made the decision just about 3 years ago, and it has absolutely been the best decision that I could have possibly made. If this video helped you, I really hope it did. Share it with somebody who's going to share it with somebody who's going to share it with somebody to get the word out there. It's really that simple. There's absolutely no need to overcomplicate it at all. There's so much I have to say on this subject. I will make more videos in the future. I've learned so much that I know can help a lot of people that are trying to get sober, that are, trying to understand really just how simple and easy it is. So I will be making more videos about it in the future. Good talk.